46 helping Arizona's rural communities, fixing roads in the Navajo Nation. All topics I spoke to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg about. I'm also diving deeper into the data here, and those numbers tell the real story. Rural roads. Take a trip throughout our beautiful state and you're sure to find them. I dug through the most recent data from the University of Arizona, which shows of the nearly 7.3 million people who live in our state, more than 347,000 call these rural communities home. So what's being done to help improve their roads on the federal level? What would your message to people in rural communities be when it comes to transportation?
Transportation is one of the things that affects whether you can succeed, and that's certainly true in rural areas. It's why in many of our programs there's a legal benchmark for how much of the funding ought to go to rural areas, and we have gone above and beyond that. And you see the impact that those dollars can have. As a matter of fact, for the first time under President Biden's infrastructure package, we have a dedicated funding stream just for rural projects.
According to data I found from the Governor's Highway Safety Association, nearly half of all deadly crashes happen on rural roads, even though less than 20% of our country's population lives in these areas. That includes our tribal lands. Arizona currently has 22 federally recognized tribes. The Navajo Nation, for example, tells me they have more than 14,000 miles of roads, but roughly 9,000 miles are unpaved. Probably first and foremost, it's a safety concern.
Yes, definitely.
In fact, the executive director of the Navajo Nation Division of Transportation, Garrett Silversmith, tells me buses carrying kids to and from school use almost all of those unpaved roads.
And our school system uses those as their prime routes of to and from school, and many of our community residents use those routes to get to and from their daily business.
Anything specifically being done for our tribal communities in this state?
Yeah, we've been in touch with a number of leaders from Hopi, Navajo, Gila, and other communities. And tribal communities are a real priority for us, especially because, frankly, they are doing a lot with a little. The funding that they have had to work with and the roads that they have to maintain are really out of whack. And we see tribal citizens facing higher rates of being vulnerable to crashes and pedestrian deaths and worse conditions on tribal roads, and that requires action.
Silversmith tells me they'll take any amount of money they can get, but is hoping for more in the future, describing rehabbing their roads as one of the Navajo Nation's top priorities.
We got plans. We're strategically planning for ways to spend those funds for improving our transportation infrastructure on the Navajo Nation. And with additional funds we can use to gravel, we can soil stabilize, we can chip seal some of these unpaved 9,000 miles of dirt roads.
And I should point out, Silversmith told me that about half of those roads are operated by the Navajo Nation, but the other half are operated by the federal government. So it really has to be a team effort to get all of those roads in working order. If you missed the first part of my interview with Secretary Buttigieg, just head to the main page of abc15.com. You can see both parts right there.